What you are about to hear is not a conspiracy theory. Every claim in this documentary is backed by peer-reviewed research, credentialed scientists, and measurable physical evidence. The reason you've never heard most of it, that's the part worth paying attention to. They have stood for longer than recorded history can fully account for. Older than the Roman Empire, older than the Greek city-states, older, some researchers now believe, than the civilization officially credited with building them. The Great Pyramid of Giza. 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, a line to true north with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees, a precision that challenges even modern surveying technology. For 2 centuries, mainstream Egyptology has offered the same answer. Slaves and soldiers, ramps and ropes, under the command of a pharaoh named Khufu. Neat, simple, settled. But settled by whom and for whose benefit? Because when you actually examine the evidence, not the textbooks, not the tourism brochures, but the peer-reviewed geological studies, the astrophysical calculations, the engineering analyses, a completely different picture begins to emerge. One that powerful institutions have spent decades doing their best to keep at the margins of serious conversation. What if the pyramids are not a monument to one king's ambition? What if they are the last surviving fingerprint of a civilization so ancient, so technically sophisticated, that its very existence forces us to rewrite everything we think we know about human history? This is not speculation. This is an investigation. Let's begin with what we're taught. According to the standard academic timeline, the Great Pyramid was constructed around 2560 BCE during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu of the 4th dynasty. It was built using tens of thousands of workers, not slaves, historians now clarify, but organized labor, who quarried limestone from nearby sites, floated granite from Aswan 500 miles south, and stacked it all into near-perfect alignment over approximately 20 years. It is a compelling story. It is also riddled with problems. Problem 1, the precision. The 4 base sides of the Great Pyramid are each roughly 230 meters long. The variance between the longest and shortest side? Less than 8 centimeters. The base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across the entire structure. These are not the tolerances of a civilization working with copper tools and wooden measuring sticks. These are the tolerances of a civilization with sophisticated surveying knowledge. Knowledge that, according to the official timeline, simply did not exist yet. Problem 2, the logistics. To complete the Great Pyramid in 20 years, workers would have needed to place one 2.5-ton block every single minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 2 decades straight, without pause. Engineers and construction specialists who have modeled this scenario consistently arrive at the same conclusion. It cannot be done with the methods officially proposed. The ramp theories, whether straight ramps, spiral ramps, or internal ramps, all fail under serious mathematical scrutiny. The ramps themselves would have required nearly as much material as the pyramid. Problem 3, the age. The official dating of the pyramids rests heavily on a single piece of evidence. A cartouche, a painted royal marking, found inside a relieving chamber above the king's chamber. It bears the name of Khufu. It was discovered in 1837 by explorer Howard Weiss. What mainstream textbooks rarely mention is that Weiss was under enormous pressure to make a significant discovery. Several of his contemporaries openly accused him of forgery. In 1994, a Kurdish shepherd in southeastern Turkey noticed something unusual in a hillside. What archaeologists eventually uncovered there would quietly shatter the foundational assumption of modern history. Göbekli Tepe, a complex of massive stone pillars, some standing over 5 meters tall, weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in precise circular formations, covered in sophisticated artistic carvings of animals, symbols, and abstract figures. It was carbon dated to approximately 10,000 BCE, possibly older. That is not a misprint. Göbekli Tepe predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years. It predates the invention of writing. It predates, according to the textbooks, civilization itself. And yet here it was, organized, intentional, technically demanding. Built by people who, according to the official narrative, were hunter-gatherers with no cities, no agriculture, and no capacity for large-scale coordinated construction. The archaeological community's response was telling. Rather than revising the timeline of human civilization, most mainstream scholars simply called Göbekli Tepe an anomaly and moved on. But anomalies have a habit of accumulating. Consider the Sphinx. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, not a conspiracy theorist, a credentialed academic, spent years analyzing the erosion patterns on the body of the Great Sphinx. His conclusion, published and peer-reviewed, was straightforward. The erosion is caused by prolonged water exposure, specifically rainfall. The last time the Giza Plateau received that level of rainfall was between 7,000 and 10,000 BCE. If Schoch is correct, the Sphinx is not 4,500 years old. It is at minimum 7,000 years old, and possibly closer to 12,000. The Egyptological establishment rejected his findings almost immediately, not with counter-geology, with appeals to the existing timeline, with arguments that essentially said, this cannot be true because it contradicts what we already believe. That is not science. That is the defense of a consensus. So if there was an advanced civilization present in the ancient world long before the accepted timeline, what happened to it? One word, catastrophe. Approximately 12,800 years ago, something catastrophic happened to planet Earth. The geological record is unambiguous. Within what appears to be a very short window of time, possibly as brief as decades, global temperatures plummeted, massive ice sheets destabilized, sea levels rose dramatically, and a period of intense destruction swept across multiple continents simultaneously. This event is known as the Younger Dryas, and for most of the 20th century, its cause was a mystery. In 2007, a team of scientists published evidence of a massive cosmic impact event. Fragments of a disintegrating comet striking the Earth's ice sheets, triggering fires across North America, Europe, and the Middle East, and causing catastrophic flooding as glaciers collapsed. The research has since been supported by studies from over 50 sites on 6 continents, finding the same unmistakable layer of platinum, nanodiamonds, and shocked quartz, all impact markers, at the same geological boundary worldwide. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis is not fringe science. It has been published in some of the most respected scientific journals in the world. It is, however, deeply inconvenient for conventional history. Because here is what it means. If an advanced civilization existed before 12,800 years ago, a civilization capable of sophisticated astronomy, large-scale construction, and precise engineering, that civilization would have been almost entirely annihilated by this event. Its cities, if coastal, would be under hundreds of feet of water. Its records, if organic, would have rotted away over millennia. Its survivors would have been scat-red, reduced to subsistence living, struggling not to build empires but simply to survive. What they may have left behind, deliberately, desperately, encoded in stone precisely because stone endures, were monuments, markers, a message written not in words but in geometry, in alignment, in the language of mathematics that any sufficiently advanced future civilization would eventually be able to read. The pyramids on this reading are not a tomb. They are a time capsule. If someone wanted to encode sophisticated knowledge into a structure designed to last tens of thousands of years, what would they build? They would build something indestructible, something so large it could not be ignored or dismantled, something whose meaning was not in written language, which changes and dies, but in pure number. Let's look at what the Great Pyramid actually contains. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height, when calculated precisely, yields a figure extraordinarily close to 2 pi, the same mathematical relationship that defines the circumference of a circle. This is not approximate, this is accurate to 4 decimal places. The speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second, corresponds with remarkable precision to the exact geographic coordinates of the Great Pyramid's location, 29.9792458 degrees north latitude. The pyramid's dimensions encode the proportions of the Earth itself. Its height, when multiplied by 43,200, a number with deep astronomical significance, equals the polar radius of the Earth to within 0.2% accuracy. Its base perimeter, multiplied by the same number, equals the equatorial circumference of the Earth. These are not coincidences. The probability of all these relationships occurring by accident converges on zero. And then there is the alignment. The three pyramids of Giza, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, are arranged in a precise pattern that mirrors the three belt stars of the constellation Orion. The match is not approximate. It is exact, including the slight angular offset of the smallest pyramid relative to the other two, which matches the dimmer third belt star precisely. But here is where it becomes extraordinary. Due to a phenomenon called precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's axis over a 26,000-year cycle, the stars shift position relative to the horizon over millennia. Researcher Robert Bauval calculated the date at which the Orion belt stars would have been in exactly the position reflected by the pyramid layout on the Giza Plateau. That date is approximately 10,500 BCE, not 2,500 BCE, 10,500 BCE. The pyramids may not simply have been built to align with the stars as they appeared to the ancient Egyptians. They may have been built to point backward, to the sky as it appeared at a specific moment in deep prehistory, to mark a date, to commemorate an event, to say this is when it happened. In 2017, the ScanPyramids project, a multinational scientific collaboration using muon tomography, a technique adapted from particle physics, announced a discovery that should have made global headlines. Inside the Great Pyramid, above the Grand Gallery, they had detected a large, previously unknown void, at least 30 meters long, possibly significantly larger. No one has been inside it. The Egyptian government halted further investigation. Access was restricted. The researchers were not permitted to drill or probe. The chamber sits sealed, unexplored, its contents entirely unknown. And the official response has been, in essence, that it's probably just a construction gap, a 30-meter void in the most studied structure in human history. And the answer is, probably nothing. Don't worry about it. This is not an isolated incident. In 1993, robotics engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a small camera-equipped robot up a narrow shaft in the Queen's Chamber. The robot traveled 65 meters and stopped, blocked by a small limestone door with two copper handles. Behind that door, a second door was later discovered. Behind the second door, a small chamber with markings on the wall that have never been fully analyzed or publicly disclosed. In 2004, the Giza Policy Group, formed to coordinate research access at the site, effectively became a bottleneck for independent investigation. Non-Egyptian researchers have found it increasingly difficult to obtain permits. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have been approved and then quietly shelved. Published findings that suggest anomalous structures have been met with bureaucratic obstruction rather than scientific engagement. We are not suggesting a conspiracy in the cinematic sense. We are observing a pattern, a consistent, decades-long pattern of restriction, delay, and dismissal wherever investigation of the pyramids threatens to produce answers that don't fit the official story. The question is not whether there are hidden chambers in the Great Pyramid. There clearly are. The question is what is in them, and why certain powerful institutions seem deeply uninterested in finding out. If we accept, even provisionally, that a technologically advanced civilization existed before 10,000 BCE, and that the Younger Dryas catastrophe largely destroyed it, then who were these people? We don't know their name. We may never know it, but we can look at what they left behind. Their fingerprints appear remarkably all over the world. The megalithic site of Pumapunku in Bolivia contains interlocking stone blocks machined to tolerances that modern stonemasons struggle to replicate, featuring precision drill holes, H-shaped blocks with internal angles that would require specialized cutting equipment, and stones transported from quarries over 90 kilometers away. The underwater ruins off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan, discovered in 1987, consist of massive stepstone formations with right angles, flat faces, and channels that several geologists argue are artificial. They sit under 25 meters of water, which means, given known sea level rise since the last ice age, they would have been above water around 10,000 BCE. The ancient submerged city of Dwarka, off the coast of India's Gujarat state, was discovered by marine archaeologists in 2001. It lies under the Gulf of Khambat and has been dated to at least 9,500 years ago, older than any civilization recognized by the standard timeline. A consistent picture begins to emerge. Across multiple continents, separated by vast oceans, at roughly the same historical moment, just before and during the Younger Dryas event, we find evidence of sophisticated human activity that the mainstream timeline cannot accommodate. These were not isolated groups of primitive hunter-gatherers independently discovering the same engineering techniques. The similarities are too precise, the alignments too deliberate, the mathematical knowledge too consistent. This was one civilization, or the remnants of one, spreading knowledge, building monuments, leaving markers for whoever came after. The ancient Egyptians on this reading did not build the pyramids from scratch. They inherited them. They built around them, added to them, worshipped at them, and in doing so, inadvertently took credit for a feat that was never really theirs. History is written by the survivors, and sometimes by the institutions those survivors eventually build. The standard story of the pyramids is not a lie exactly. It is an incomplete truth, stretched to cover a gap that mainstream archaeology has never been comfortable acknowledging. The gap between what the evidence actually shows and what the accepted timeline can explain. What we know, stripped of assumption, is this. The Great Pyramid encodes mathematical and geographical knowledge that should not have existed in 2500 BCE. The Sphinx shows geological evidence of an age far greater than officially claimed. The Giza layout mirrors a star configuration that corresponds to a date nearly 8,000 years before the accepted construction period. And inside the pyramid, sealed chambers remain unexplored, their contents unknown. These are not fringe claims. They are documented, measurable, testable observations made by geologists, engineers, astrophysicists, and archaeologists that the establishment has chosen, repeatedly and consistently, to minimize rather than investigate. There is a civilization missing from our history, a civilization that understood the Earth, the stars, and the principles of advanced construction at a level we are only now beginning to recover. A civilization that was struck down by catastrophe and left behind, in the most durable medium available, everything it knew. The pyramids are not a mystery because we lack intelligence. They are a mystery because we have been asking the wrong question. We keep asking, how did they build it? The real question is, who were they, and what did they need us to remember? The answer is there, encoded in 2.3 million blocks of stone, waiting, as it has waited for longer than recorded history, for someone to finally be willing to look. For more ancient mysteries, be sure to check out our upcoming videos and subscribe to join us as we continue exploring the fascinating stories history still has left to reveal. Thanks for watching, and always, until next time, stay safe.